Hey everyone, how's it going? Happy Friday. It's a beautiful day here in New York, and today we will be kind of short and sweet and to the point about a new prompt method that we just covered on our blog called System to Attention Prompting. And generally, what this method really tries to tackle is the issue that can arrive when running a prompt where you have irrelevant information make it into the context of that prompt. Even a slight piece of irrelevant information can really send the model down the wrong way. It can kind of turn that attention mechanism that makes models so powerful and kind of point that into the other direction. So it's kind of a double-edged sword when it comes to these attention mechanisms of these transformers. And so system to attention was kind of designed to combat this issue of irrelevant or just context that isn't really needed in a prompt that could lead the model down the wrong direction. So here's a quick example. So for context, the question here is, where is Sam Liccardo born? He was born in Saratoga. That is like the correct answer. But you can see, and it correctly, all three models here get the right answer, wherein this is the prompt and it mentions Saratoga. I believe if you probably just did the second part, probably get it right too. But on the right side, when you start talking about Sunnyvale, just saying it's a city in California, has parks, blah, 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 and then ask where San Jose's mayor was born, they all say Sunnyvale. And this is a classic example of none of this information up here is relevant, but the mere presence of Sunnyvale, Sunnyvale, Sunnyvale will increase the token probability that it will appear in the output. And I know you might be saying, oh, that was for like Text DaVinci and like GPT 3.5. These are old models. Maybe this doesn't happen anymore. I ran a batch test in Prompt Hub with like two of what I would call the latest and greatest frontier models, proprietary ones at least. So 4.0 and Sonnet. And I sent the same exact prompt that we saw on the right side in the previous slide. And you see GPT 4.0 confidently gets it wrong, again says Sunnyvale. And Anthropic says it can't determine where the person was born, which is pretty interesting, because we're just applying information about something that's completely unrelated, right? And that's enough to say for Anthropic, which is this 3.5 Sonnet, which is their highest performing model, to say I don't know, never mind. And so System 2 attention prompting aims to combat these situations by first prompting the model to regenerate the original prompt to only include the relevant information. So it's like some pre-processing done by an LLM. Here's what the template looks like. You can create variants of this, but it basically says, hey, here's the text, extract the unbiased part, and then include the actual question, the query that the user is asking, separate into two categories, the unbiased text, so the relevant context, and then the question. And then you pass along the prompt. So it'll break it down to, here's the context, here's the actual question, and then you do one more step to process it. You could have the LLM process it in this prompt too if you wanted to. And we have a template for this in Prompt Hub, so you can grab this out of your library, copy the text, do whatever you need to do with it. And so here's some examples of how it can make prompts more relevant. So if we look at the prompt on the left, Mary has 3 times as much candy as Megan, yada yada, and then has a sentence in here: Max has 1,000 more books than Mary, and that's unrelated because we're really just focused on pieces of candy between Megan and Mary, not Max and books. And you can see this prompt gets processed through System to Attention, and it becomes this prompt, the correct context, and then the actual question. Another example of where leading the model goes wrong. So, which American actor also performs with the band Dogstar? I think it's Johnny Depp, but I'm not sure. So, doing this type of, I think it's this person, but I'm not sure, will really push the model to give that answer. So sometimes we say don't believe the model, even if you're just like talking in ChatGPT. You kind of want the model to do the reasoning and not push it too far, or else they might kind of regurgitate that because the probability of those tokens have increased. And so in this case, same prompt gets reprocessed, only keeps the relevant context, and then asks the question, and the answer is Keanu Reeves. So they did a bunch of experiments for this. Baseline prompt from a data set, and then they injected relevant information into it. Oracle prompt, which is just like an ideal version of that prompt with the only relevant information, and then system 2 attention prompting, which we've looked at, which we'll do one step of processing first. And basically, system 2 attention prompting will take what is a bad prompt and turn it into a perfect or Oracle prompt. And it did this across a couple of data sets. It's not super relevant. That's all you really need to know in terms of the high level information. And then continuing on this path of models being distracted, there's another paper, and both will be linked below, that looked at different prompt engineering methods that could be used to combat irrelevant text and prompts other than system 2 attention. So basically, they took some math questions and they would inject some irrelevant sentence somewhere in the prompt. It could take a couple of different forms. Then I tested a bunch of different prompt engineering methods, and our guides for each one of these that we have are listed below. So self-consistency, few-shot prompting. What was cool about few-shot prompting is that the examples they used had irrelevant information in the few-shot prompt. So this is the best practice for few-shot prompting, where you want your examples to really mimic what the real world will be. And so in this case, it made a lot of sense. Instructed prompting is just kind of fancy speak for saying really specific instructions. So feel free to ignore relevant information in the prompt description. Chain of thought leads to most, program of thought. And here's how an original prompt can be kind of transformed into these other methods. I thought this was pretty interesting. I definitely recommend looking at this. It's also in our blog post, so just kind of get an idea of how you can take a normal prompt and transform it to other versions. And so a bunch of results to look at here, kind of broken down in a bunch of different ways. We have an extended kind of analysis of the results in our blog post, but the headline was performance dropped, obviously, as you'd kind of expect when irrelevant information was added. Less than 30% of the problems were solved consistently once those irrelevant sentences were present. Least to most prompting and self-consistency prompting were the most effective in handling this irrelevant context. We have ways that you can implement this, like guides and whatnot for those two specific methods. But both of them rely on doing multiple LLM calls. So least to most breaks it down into multiple reasoning steps, like explicit reasoning steps. And self-consistency will take a single prompt, run it many times to pick the most consistent answer. And so wrapping up here, attention is what both makes LLM super powerful, but can also kind of send them down the wrong path if there's just a little bit of irrelevant context. So doing a pre-processing step, maybe with a smaller model, if you're worried about latency, could be a really good kind of way to combat this and make sure that model stays on task and you get good outputs. So hope this helps. Have a great day.